Hi, guys. My name is Clayton Taylor here with my brother Dylan, and this is Pursuing the Truth podcast. Now, when it comes to learning and pursuing the truth, me and my brother are truly addicted. We absolutely love to learn, and we always have. So, in this podcast, we take a relevant topic for today's audience and see what we can learn from each other in pursuit of the truth. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome, guys. So today's episode is going to be on the art of consistency. Dylan, you got any thoughts about that right off the bat?
Yeah, so I don't know, consistency. I mean, we've talked about this a lot in the past that whatever you start, you have to be consistent at, right? And so the first thing that I think of, I heard about a year ago, is that consistency compounds. And so I think that in itself is the beauty of consistency, is because it's one of those rare things that the more consistent you are, the better you get, yes, but it compounds. You continue to get better than you would if you were just, intermittently doing it here or there, or, not being consistent. So, I mean, right off the bat, the first word I think of with consistency is that it compounds. What about you?
That's good.
What are you thinking?
No, I mean, I think you're right on. It's kind of like the secret sauce to success in multiple things, because I feel like in most things, if you lift, if you have a business, if you're trying to do something for yourself, it's all about consistency. If an athlete trains and then stops, he loses his skill. If
you lose that edge, right?
Yeah, if a lifter is dieting right and with the consistency and everything, and then stops doing that, he's going to lose all the progress that he had. So exactly what you said, but also it being a long-term success and everything. I just think consistency is right there, so.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, we were just talking about this last week that I'm working as a medical scribe, and I just took a break for a week because our family went on vacation. And since I'm in the emergency department, it's just so fast paced all the time. And after 8 days of being off, which was the first time I had taken a vacation from the job, I was like completely out of it for the first couple of days, trying to find my rhythm, trying to get back into it. And so I think that goes back to what you're saying about consistencies, like that secret sauce. Like even when you stop for a little bit, maybe it's that mental edge that you lose, or maybe it's something else, but you stop. I think whenever you stop doing something that you were consistent at, obviously you're not getting better, but then the longer it goes where you're not consistent at something, I think the more you go backwards. And I mean, maybe to the point to where, over long enough time, you actually go to like lose the skill or whatever it is. But with consistency, it just continues to build and build and build on itself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really key. So, for those of you guys that don't know, Dylan actually did the half Ironman. And so, D, I feel like, you've done multiple things where you've had to be super consistent and to kind of a higher level as well. So I want you to kind of get into that a bit, if you don't mind. It's just kind of like the consistency with your training and, the running, the swimming, the biking, all that. I mean, most of that was new to you. So you're also really good with like building the discipline to start something and finish it, and you just keep on hammering it out. So talk about like some of your mindset and just the consistency in that, I think.
I guess, cool. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I guess you have to be like passionate about it first. Like I remember in 2018, I knew I was going to start college in the fall, and like we've always been smaller framed people. And so I knew that like before I started college, or just in general, like I wanted to be like somewhat of a bigger person. Like we've always been slim when we were playing soccer or whatever. And so I remember at the start of 2018, I told myself like I want to set a goal of like working out at least 6 times a week for a full year, and at least see where that gets me by the end of the year. And I think my thought at the beginning was like, hopefully I will enjoy it so much that 10, 15, 20 years down the road, if I wasn't working out, I could think back to that year. And if it was a good experience, hopefully be that catalyst and like that motivation to get me started. So that was kind of like my motive for like working out or something. And so I set like try to set manageable goals and said like there's one day a week, specifically Sunday, that I'm not going to work out. And I was able to like work out like 6 days a week every single day that year. Um, but I think like part of it was like the mindset of being able to break it down into manageable pieces, and then also I guess the goal at the end. Like I was very curious and I wanted to see if I would like it at the end or if I wouldn't. And so to deviate from that path, even by a day or two, I knew would throw off my goal that I had set for and something that I like really wanted to see come to an end. And then by the end, I realized that I really did like working out. And then that is actually what kind of spun me into like signing up for a half Ironman.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because I remember that feeling when I finished working out in 2018. Like I gave myself 2 or 3 weeks in like the first couple weeks of January of 2019 of like not working out. And I haven't ever really got back into a rhythm of working out again. But I remembered thinking back to that time when I was graduating. I graduated in December of 2020. And I'm applying to med school, so I don't really have like anything set in stone outside of just me working a 9 to 5 job for about a year as I'm taking a gap year for that. So like I had the time to do a half Ironman. It was local. And then I was thinking back to that time about working out, and like I remembered how healthy and how good I felt by doing it. And I knew that doing something even more like I guess cardiovascular oriented rather than like weightlifting, which is more like physical strength type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do something that was like healthy for me and that would also like give me another goal to shoot for. So that was like my motivation going into half Ironman. And then the one other piece to it was that I remember like when I was like 10 or 11 years old, we as a family, we were sitting there watching TV, and I think we watched an Alaskan full Ironman. And I remember sitting there thinking like, that's absolutely crazy. Those people are crazy. Like, and then I just categorized that in my head of saying like, that's just not me. And I can't do that.
Oh, wow.
And then,
I didn't know that.
yeah. And then I was thinking about it. Like there's a few other like situations. Like I was talking to some people that said now would be the best time to do an Ironman if you're ever thinking about it. But I thought back to that as well. And I was like, you know what? When I was 12, I thought that'd be impossible. And now I realize that like, I mean, whatever you set your mind to, you can accomplish. And it's really not that hard if you break it down. And so like, it was a combination of a bunch of things, but those were like two of the main things that made me think like, well, you know, I at least want to sign up for it. And once I sign up for it, I'm going to make myself do it because I hate wasting money. And it was like $500 to actually sign up for the race. So anyways, once I signed up for it, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have any orientation for like how I was going to set up workouts, but that's what YouTube's for, right?
Yep.
So I was just like YouTubing everything, but I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying. Like, I think you have to have some type of motivation to get you to be consistent with something. And as long as you have that motivation and as long as you have that passion for it, then I think you can stay consistent at it, as long as you're also breaking down that goal that you have set for yourself into manageable pieces. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So the first thought is I did not know that you kind of in your brain categorize the Ironman as like, that's crazy, not for me. I'm not going to do that, because it's so interesting. You ended up doing the Ironman, because I ended up doing that about stocks. I was at Food Line.
Really?
Yeah. And I was watching some videos and I was like, I don't know, some clickbait guy said, he's making like $1,000, $2,000 a day. And
yeah, like you get those ads all the time.
Yeah, like I kind of watched the videos, and I was like 16. I learned about the level 2. Then I'm like, I could never do that. This dude is just crazy. He's gambling, and I could not depend on that for consistent income, and here I am like a trader. So that's cool. Because it really does prove that like when you put your mind to something, you can do it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I don't even know why I was thinking about it. Like I had left that memory when I was like 12 years old and I like just forgot about it. But
yeah.
I think I was 18 or 19. And then I heard someone do an Ironman again. And that's what kind of like made me think about it again. And
Yep.
then at that point, it was kind of just like in the back of my head. And I told myself, like, one day when I settle down and like hopefully become a doctor, hopefully like settle down with like a family and kids and stuff, then I'll have some free time and I would like to, maybe pursue that. Um, and that was like, I never really told myself that, but that was always in the back of my mind.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was actually talking to one of my best friends, his dad, when we were at a wedding together. His dad was like 40 years old and he had just finished a full Ironman. And I was like so excited. I wanted to ask him a bunch of questions about it. And I told him that was like the first time I verbalized it. And I was like, yeah, at some point in my like career, I think it'd be really cool to do a half Ironman or an Ironman. And he's like, it would be the most selfish thing for you to wait until you're my age to do it. I was like, what are you talking about? You just did it.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, you don't understand. I spent while my kids were like going through high school and graduating college, and I'm working a full time job. He's like, I spent 20 to 30 hours a week on top of my 40-hour week job training for
Wow.
this. And
Wow.
my family and my kids had no time for it. And then he started asking me what I'm doing. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be working like a 40-hour week job, but I'm going to be out of school for a year because I'm planning on taking this gap year before medical school. And he's like, dude, now would be literally the best time probably in your whole career to do it. And that was like another catalyst that I was like, well, like he said that and I started thinking about it. And then I had like a long 2-hour drive home from this out of town wedding. And
Mm,
I like could not stop thinking about it the whole time. Um,
nice. So it just
and
brought it all
like,
back and you're contemplating it now.
yeah. And then so after contemplating it for like a couple months, uh, I start looking into it and I'm trying to figure out where I can do a full Ironman, but they're like $1,000 or like $700. Um, the closest one was like in September of 2021, which is like September of this year. Um, and it was in like Maryland. And I was thinking, I don't want to have to pay for all these fees to travel. I don't want to wait that long. Like I want to do something in the next 6 months. And that's when I started looking. And it turned out literally in our backyard, 15 minutes away from where we live, there was going to be a half Ironman in June, which was like, last month. So it literally fit my time frame that I wanted. I wanted it to be 6 months or less for me training for it. And it was literally, I graduated in December and had January to June to train for it. And then it was right in the backyard. So then when I saw that, I was like, well, I mean, I can't say no to this, it's
Absolutely. Perfect opportunity
perfect,
there.
perfect timing, perfect opportunity. And it like fell right into my lap. But uh, it just seems like everything fell into line. And then I was like, um, the other thing that I forgot to mention was that I was content doing it on my own. But I was talking to one of my friends that he was also graduating, and I was talking to him about his dad because he had mentioned to me before that his dad was uh, a marathon runner. And so I was asking him, I was like, hey man, I'm thinking about signing up for this half Ironman. And I was like, do you think your dad might have any advice? And he's like, wait, really? You're thinking about signing up for half Ironman? And he's like, if you're gonna sign up for it, I'll definitely sign up with you. And he's in the area as well. So even though we graduated from the same college, uh, we're both from like the same city. And so we got to train together the entire time, which was even something else to help with the consistency because now I have someone else training with me, that's going to hold me accountable, that's going to
Yeah.
like prod me to continue to work out when I was tired or when I didn't want to. And then someone also to like learn with me because there's a ton of like just logistical stuff like what type of clothing to wear, how much training is too much training because unfortunately that's a concern as well because if you train too much you're going to get injured and then you can't train for the race. But
Right.
then if you don't train enough, you aren't going to be qualified or you won't be able to finish the race regardless because you just don't have the stamina or whatever. So, anyways, having someone else to help me was just like the last thing that I was like, okay, I'm signing up for it. And then I think Warren Buffett said this once, like he hated speaking in public. And I was reading one of his books, and he said that he's trying to graduate from college and he hated speaking in public, so he didn't want to do public speaking. And he said for 3 years, I'm probably his sophomore, junior, and senior year, or maybe his freshman, sophomore, and junior year, he had signed up for the communications class, the public speaking class, and then every time he backed out at the last second. And he said he knew that once he threw his finances down, he was like so diligent about his money that he said he wrote himself a check, or he wrote the school a check for the class. And he said, as soon as you hand a check, like, you can't go back on that. And that's how he got himself through public speaking, because he wrote a check that fourth time that he tried it. And then now he's locked into it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like in that sense, I hate spending money. Like I hate spending money on anything.
Yeah, you're a budgeter. Like literally when we go camping, like sorry not to cut you off, but you will not spend a dime. Like when we were kids, our parents would give us like $50 or $60 for food and everything. And I would come back with $10 and Dylan would come back with like 59, or I'm exaggerating, but probably like 50 out of the $60. I kid you not. So you always have been like, yeah.
Like even if I have money, I genuinely get pleasure out of seeing how I can do things the cheapest, because like it literally pains me to spend money. It even pains me to spend other people's money or to see others people spend their money, especially on things that like are just not worth spending your money on. So anyways, I knew that once I paid for it, like I'm not backing out. And if I'm not backing out, then I might as well do it well, because I don't want to just flop, that's still a waste of my money. Yeah. So anyways, that was one of the first things I had done before I got a bike, before I realized anything, the half Ironman, is that I'm just going to throw down my money, get a spot, and then everything else will work its way out. Nice. That was really counterintuitive to what I do most of the time. Most of the time I plan everything out.
Yeah, you're very
before I go on it. I just don't like making mistakes, and I try to plan everything out in my head. And I had 2 or 3 people tell me, they're like, just sign up for it. Everything else will work its way out. And it did. So that was like something that I learned through that whole process, is that, sometimes you just have to start. Like you might not have everything planned out, and it might not be perfect. You might even flop at first, but I mean, if we're talking about consistency, the first step is to start, and even if it's being consistent at something that's not perfect yet, you are still making steps that you wouldn't have made if you were sitting back trying to calculate everything, trying to make sure everything was right.
But yeah, absolutely. That's great stuff, D. And
but I mean, go ahead.
You go ahead and finish.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like you're consistent in the same way, because I was even watching you, like while I was going through school, you stayed at the house, and like every single day of the week, you were consistently learning about stocks, trading stocks, using like training stock platforms where you would use like fake money to trade, and like you were continuing to grow that like knowledge base and that skill of how to trade. And I mean, now you're moved out and you're in an apartment because of it, so that's consistency. So do you want to talk about that a little bit and how you stay consistent?
Yeah, for
doing
sure.
That through, because there was good times and bad times, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely.
Highs and lows with trading.
I'll talk a bit about that for sure. It's weird. Like I was consistent in the fact that I just showed up and took a beating every day.
Well, you still showed up, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So like to your last point where you said you just got to start, I remember the first days, I just got an account. I put in some money, which I thought was big at the time. And, I'm down 100, 200 or whatever. And I thought it was some big money. I was freaking out. I couldn't even exit my position. but yeah, just going from there, just kept on showing up, taking the beat, and then learned a little bit more. It's kind of funny, like your way of consistency, and this is what I wanted to say a while ago, was that like there's two types of consistencies. It's like you have an
Okay.
end goal and then your process consistency oriented, you know? So like your end goal consistency oriented or like
Hmm.
process. And for the longest
Okay.
time,
Okay.
I would just show up and take a beating in the stock market for no reason because I would just show up. So I was consistent in showing up, but I wasn't consistent in like learning the right ways to trade. I was very emotional, still am, but to get that consistently profitable, you have to kind of figure out that you can't be goal oriented, you can't be
Hmm.
end goal oriented. You have to
Yeah.
be process oriented, which is something that you're really good at because like you have always had the mindset of I'm going to follow this process and the end goal will come. Whereas I've not
Hmm.
always been that way. I've always been like, I'm going to show up and just do my best. Right.
Yeah.
And
So
sometimes
you're
that
saying
leads to
you're
massive inconsistencies. What were you gonna say?
so so you're saying your consistency was the goal. So you'd show up every day
Yeah.
consistently with the goal in mind, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Like not you didn't have a strategy to get there.
Right.
I don't
Without the right
understand.
process to get there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like if I'm going to show up to the market, I need to be more structured, kind of
Yeah.
like, all right, 8 o'clock, we're going to start the day. We're going to look through the filings and news and this and all that and yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the day, we're going to do a trade review. We're going to get the right software to track that. And we're going to be consistent in all the things that we can control. And I was not good at that. I mean, there were some days where I'd sleep in on accident, wake up at like 9:45. I only got truly consistent when I got that overnight job, and I was like, I literally have got to start doing this. Got over PDT, and then took it seriously, and that's when things started to
Yeah.
happen. I kind of moved out
Huh.
from there, but anyways,
You
yeah.
know,
So you have any thoughts on the process and goals and
yeah.
consistency?
Yeah, I think it was actually Commander Steve that he would always say this. And I love this saying because uh it talks about I think it helps with the consistency on a daily basis. And I think you know what I'm going to say. He always tells me, or he didn't always tell me, he just said it once and it stuck with me, that he said, Dylan, you can't eat a cow in one sitting, but you sure can't eat in one hamburger at a time.
That's right.
And like that's always stuck with me. And I think applying that to consistency, like you can't just tackle Rome wasn't built in a day. Like you can't just tackle a goal in one day. So I think whenever I had a goal, I would try to sit back and push myself realistically. Like there's a phrase like smart to help you set goals, and I don't really like it. It's like uh, set the goal. M is manageable. A is I don't even remember all of them, but manageable didn't really stick with me because whenever someone sets a goal that's manageable, then you're capping yourself on how far you can go. Like the other thing I always say is if you're shooting for the stars and fall, then you fall all the way back down to earth. But if you shoot for the sun and fall, then you fall and you land among the stars. Like you still get to your end destination. So always shoot further than your goal is. Like,
Hey, sorry not to cut you off, but I pulled up that acronym if you want it.
Oh yeah, what is it?
So SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So
yeah. Okay, so the manageable was immanageable. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was measurable.
Yeah, and then also the R measurable. Okay, so yeah, okay, I do like measurable. I think it's the realistic that I didn't like then. Because like you want to be able to measure it, but I guess measurable, I'm not super happy about, and then like realistic, like sometimes you really have to make goals that are unrealistic to push past any type of limitation you would have had before.
Well, you know what? Sorry.
Anyways, But
one cool thing though, I think like this is about setting a goal, right? SMART goal setting, the acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic,
mhm,
timely. Don't make your goal, your end goal realistic, but you got to make your consistent daily routine realistic. Because
yeah,
I've
yeah, that
done
was,
that in my life where
yep,
it's been like, oh my goodness, I've overloaded myself so much. And I know you've even done some things like that. We were just talking about that today, literally. And
yeah,
it's just so, it's so massive. You just literally cannot do everything. And so
yeah,
your unrealistic goal pretty much stays unrealistic
yeah,
because your daily life, you didn't make those tiny little steps like realistic and manageable. Would you
yeah.
agree with that?
And yeah, that was actually something I was just pulling up the calculator to remember the numbers.
Cool.
But it was one New Year's Eve. Like I was setting a goal, and this was like years back, and I never even finished it. So it's not a great analogy, but it's an analogy nonetheless. That I thought about like working out. I think this was like probably 2017, like the year before. Like I tried to work out every day, um, and I told myself, like sitting there New Year's Eve, I was like, you know what? I want to try to do like some physical challenge throughout the year. And I thought it'd be really cool to do push-ups. And then I was like, well, what would be a cool number? I was like, a million push-ups in a year would be pretty cool.
Oh my
And
goodness.
like, I was like, that'd be pretty cool. And then the next thing I did is I tried to break that down and see what that would look like per day. And that is 2,739.7 push-ups per day.
That's insane.
And I was like, okay, yeah, that is, I could shoot for that. And maybe if I spent a ton of my time, hit that a few of the days. But I realized pretty quickly that that was like not a goal that I wanted to shoot for. And so I was like, well, 100,000 really doesn't sound that good, even though it's compared to a million, but it's still more than I would have done. But 100,000 is only 273 push-ups a day. And so that was the goal that I set for myself. Um, and I think I even like I tried to sit down and think through the whole process. And I was like, I know there's going to be days where I'm on vacation and I'm going to miss out. I know there's going to be days where I'm sick or where I really just forget about it or miss out on it somewhere somehow. So I was like, I guess I'll just round that number up to 300, and then I'll get like a break every 9 days or whatever I worked it out to be. That will accumulate over time, almost like pay time off or something. And so that was my goal, is like 300 push-ups a day. And I mean, to make a long story short, I think I was like 3.5 months into it, and I was consistent throughout that whole time. But I wasn't really seeing like much physical change after 3 weeks. And I know physically it's not great to literally do the same exercise for more than 6 weeks, anyways. And I was doing it every single day. So I kind of talked myself out of it, which isn't really a great story when we're talking about consistency. But I think it does go back to like, I was starting out with a million push ups. And if I didn't sit down and figure out how I could eat that hamburger every day, then I would have quit a lot sooner, because I don't think there's any way I would have kept up, 3,000 push-ups or 2,800 push-ups a day.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. That's actually a really good story. And sorry guys, if you can hear my dog, she's a little golden Sammy. She's like 15 weeks old, so she's just been barking because she's got to go out or something. But
you got to be consistent with the training too, which you have been for
oh
the
my
most part, right?
goodness. Well, I don't know. These past 2 weeks I've been pretty bad at it, honestly. But yeah,
Oh
you got to
yeah,
be consistent that too. Literally
yeah,
just everything in life, like we were talking about, is just such the secret sauce to everything.
yeah. It's
Is
the
just doing it, the small, tiny little things every day, just doing them great.
yeah,
It's not doing anything
yeah,
spectacular on the day or really anything too crazy. Just small, tiny
yeah.
things.
It's
So
like Will Smith. I think he was talking about building a wall, and like his dad. One of the lessons that his dad was trying to teach him is like, son, sit down and you're gonna try to build this wall, okay? Oh, I got attacked by the dog. uh, Calm down, buddy. Anyways, uh, Will Smith was talking, and he's like, yeah, so when you go to build a wall, you can't build it just at one time. He's like, you got to be consistent with the building. And he's like, I couldn't sit there and mix all the mortar, get all the bricks, and do everything in one day as a 12-year-old because I just don't know how to do all that. But he said, what I can do is I can lay one brick as perfectly as anyone in life has ever laid that one brick. And he said, if I do that long enough, then you'd be surprised when you stand back and realize you have a perfect wall. But
Dude,
he was
what a
talking
cool
about that
story.
consistency. Yeah. And he said his dad made him do that when he was 12 years old. It's like, I guess put a brick wall up somewhere. I don't even know where. But yeah, he was talking about that consistency. So I thought that was really cool. And that has always stuck with me after I heard that. But
Yeah. Wow, dude, that is so cool. I'm just laughing. Sorry, Bella's just going crazy.
he had just opened the door up and
Yeah.
the dog was barking. She just came charging at me
Like,
and
barrel
she was all in
door.
my face. So
She just loves people. But it was just so cool. You said that he said you can literally lay one brick as perfectly as possible, just one
yeah,
brick a day. And I feel
yeah,
like if we can just do that and consistency in whatever we're doing, wow, at the end of the day, just like that perfect wall, I think we're gonna hit some pretty cool goals that we set.
yeah. And I mean that's where the compounding comes in, is because
Yeah.
you might not be doing more than other people, but was it Michael Jordan um that is like an insane worker in basketball? I don't know
Oh, I
basketball
think it
super
might have been
well.
Kobe with like the free
Kobe,
throws and
okay.
all that, like before
Yeah,
practice. Yeah.
yeah. Kobe, his work ethic was insane. And he even said in an interview, he said, you know, when he was first starting out, he said, I know there's people that are better than me. He said, but what I also know is that I'm the hardest working person in the gym or in the NBA. And he said, I am up at 3 a.m. putting in an extra workout. And he said, I grind all the time. And he said, I know that over time, I'm going to pass my competition and then I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. And he said, by that point, no one will be able to reach me because no one will even be able to put in as much time as I do in one day. And I would have already been doing it for 3, 4, 5+ years. And he's like, at that point, no one will be better than me. And I mean, look at how good that guy got, you know?
Yeah, that's so true, D. That's really cool.
Yeah, that guy worked so hard. So
Yeah, insanity.
it's crazy. But
Well, do you know how long we've been doing this interview for?
I didn't even
This
start the
podcast?
timer.
You didn't
So
start the timer. I didn't either. I have absolutely no clue.
yeah, I'd say like 25 minutes or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Man, good stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it
We
was
got
good
anything else
stuff.
to add or?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, I think we had a good conversation. I think we both learned a little bit about consistency. Like you brought up a good point about having two different points, like the consistency on a daily basis and then the consistency to stick with the goal, which I hadn't thought about before. And
Thank you.
yeah, I feel like I could get better about that goal at the end because like I always do go straight down to like breaking it down and seeing how I can be consistent daily in whatever I choose to do. But like I think sometimes if I focus too much on the daily process, then I become like malleable with my goal. And
Mm,
because I think there's been a few times when I've gotten really, really close and I've been consistent the whole time. And I thought I was doing everything right and I didn't hit my goal. And then that's kind of a letdown,
for sure.
when you feel like you've done everything, feel like you've calculated how to get somewhere, and you stick to it, and then you don't get there.
Wow.
But that's also life.
Yeah, that's
And
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and going back to that other analogy, is like if you shoot for the sun, and you miss, you can still look back and realize how far you went. So I feel like sometimes I let my goals be able to be bent and twisted a little bit, I guess, to maybe make myself feel good about myself afterwards, or like to help me sleep at night when at the end of the day I didn't reach it. But
Mm,
I think regardless, if you can stick to that daily process, you're going to get a lot further than if you just haphazardly start something and don't commit to it.
yeah. It's kind of cool. Like I actually had the opposite problem. Like I would set
Really?
my goal but my daily routine would just be so unrealistic. I'll get burnt out super fast and then just abandon it altogether, you know?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
So I definitely need to get better at just laying that perfect brick. Just in everything that I'm trying to do, even now, like my trader review or even trading in Bella, just lay that perfect brick and figure out what that is. So I definitely love
Yeah.
that too, man. It's good talking
Yeah.
with you, homie.
Well, nice. This is good. This is our first podcast, but I'm
Right.
excited for where this, I guess, series will run, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So nice. All
You
right.
want to close
Well,
this out?
yeah, I think we pretty much covered all bases. So I don't know. I guess we'll see you next time.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for listening.